March 1816. James Madison begins his final year as president. The United States has 18 states, still mainly concentrated along the Atlantic coast, but also owns territory extending almost to the Pacific Ocean. 14 months ago, Andrew Jackson and his American Army and militia defeated the British outside New Orleans in the final battle of the War of 1812. George Washington died just more than 16 years ago. People are alive who remember the passage of the Declaration of Independence 40 years ago. Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin are 7 years old. George III is still King of Great Britain. Less than a year ago, British and Prussian forces defeated Napoleon's French army at Waterloo. Napoleon is into his first year in exile at St. Helena Island in the South Atlantic. Francis Asbury is the leading bishop in the Methodist Episcopal Church in the United States. He would die at the end of the month. Denton, Maryland is a small town on the Choptank River. From the river, it extends back from Front Street through 5th Street. From the north, the streets are High Street, Dry Street, Gay Street, Market Street, and Low Street. A group of Methodists have been meeting in Denton. The minister of the Greensboro Circuit pastors these people, but there has been no church building. In fact, no denomination has a church building in Denton. Getting to a Methodist church building requires 1 to 3 hours by horseback. Reverend James Moore is the circuit riding minister of the Greensboro Circuit. He is not married, as Bishop Asbury does not want circuit riders to be tied down. He also serves 1 year, as Bishop Asbury moves circuit riders every year. The previous May, Anthony Ross had donated a 1/4 acre piece of ground on the outskirts of Denton on Low Street, now known as Franklin Street, between 4th and 5th Streets, to the trustees of the Methodist Church in Denton. During the fall and winter of 1815 into 1816, the church building was constructed. It is now March, and the church building is completed. It has 2 outside doors, one for the church members and one for their slaves. The members sit on benches on the main floor. The slaves sit in a loft in the rear of the building. A pulpit area is in front, with an altar in front of it. A written account, probably torn from an old Bible, found in the attic of the old parsonage reads, "The first sermon ever preached in Moore's Chapel, Denton, was preached by the Reverend James Moore from the 145 Psalm and the 9, 10, and 11 verses, March 24, 1816, a very large congregation, the largest ever in Denton. There is no choir or choir director, nor is there an organ or a piano. The minister preaches, and he leads the congregation in singing. The congregation sings loudly. In fact, some people refer to Methodist congregations as howling Methodists." Time passes. Denton and the Denton Methodist congregation grow. By 1867, 2 years after the end of the Civil War, Moore's Chapel is not big enough for the size of the congregation. The congregation builds a new brick church on the part of the lot on Market Street. The congregation sells the old building to the new Bethel AME Church, who move it to 3rd Street, north of Gay Street. That church worships in that building until they build a bigger church on Dry Street, now known as Lincoln Street. The old building is later used as a meeting building, a dance hall, and a garage before becoming abandoned. Moore's Chapel is torn down in 1976 as a safety hazard. In the meantime, on a national level, the Methodist Church splits in 1828 into the Methodist Episcopal Church and the Methodist Protestant Church. A Methodist Protestant congregation forms in the Burrsville area, but has many members from Denton. The congregation builds a church in 1897 to 1898, which becomes known as Grace Methodist Church. Grace Church plays a prominent role in the Methodist Protestant Church in Maryland. The Maryland Annual Conference's last annual meeting, held in a local church, occurs in Grace Church in 1933. After that, the annual conferences will take place at Western Maryland College in Westminster. The Grace Church minister from 1910 to 1912, Albert Norman Ward, later becomes president of Western Maryland College. In fact, 2 buildings on that campus are named for Reverend Ward and his wife, Blanche Ward. Grace Church members play a prominent role in Denton's history, too. One of the original trustees, M. Bates Stevens, is the local school superintendent and later becomes the state school superintendent. T. Pliny Fisher heads the local temperance group. Virgil Moore and then his son Charles Moore operate Moore Funeral Home. Thomas J. Turkington serves as minister for 29 years and is very active in the local community. In 1939, the Methodist Episcopal and Methodist Protestant churches merge on a national level to form the Methodist Church. As with many towns, Denton continues to have 2 Methodist congregations meeting a block apart. The Peninsula Conference appoints Reverend Otho G. Bud Brewer as pastor of First Church in 1959, and then also of Grace Church in 1960 when Reverend Turkington retires. Under his leadership, a committee of leaders from both churches meets and prepares a merger agreement. Both congregations approve the merger, and the congregations are formally merged by action of the annual conference in 1960. As part of the merger plan, the combined congregation adopts a new name, St. Luke's Methodist Church, later to become St. Luke's United Methodist Church. To avoid tying the combined congregation too closely to either of the buildings, the plan also calls for a new building to be built on a vacant lot owned by the church at the southwest corner of Franklin and 5th Streets. In the meantime, the churches combine their programs, including their Sunday schools and their choirs. The groundbreaking for the new building occurs in November 1968. The steeple is put onto the nearly complete building on Good Friday, 1970. The first service in the new building is on June 28, 1970, and the new building is consecrated on October 25, 1970. But the church is more than bricks and mortar. Since March 1816, St. Luke's has grown and prospered because its members prayed for God's guidance and followed that guidance for spiritual growth of our members and service to our community. We celebrate 200 years of people of faith following God's guidance, and we thank God for the faith of her people in our church. At the same time, though, we recognize that unless we continue to seek God's guidance, anniversaries mean nothing. Therefore, let us follow the example of our forebears and seek God's guidance as we go forward. Let us so follow God that as our descendants and successors celebrate later anniversaries, may they be able to thank God that we sought God's guidance and followed it. May those who come behind us find us faithful.